Good morning from the Cactus Lounge in Tucson, Arizona. This is Donna Reed. I traveled in Up With People 1976A. And honestly, I got to make sure Paul Caldwell knows that I have a virtual photo behind me so that there's actually a cactus, actually a couple. If I move, see that? There's an Ocotillo over there too. So anyway, a Santa Fe home in Tucson. My guest today is Zan Diener. And before I get into the regular questions, Zan, I forewarned you that you are the second person I've ever met with the name Zan, and the other one is also an alumni who I already interviewed. So tell me about your name, because it's fascinating to me.
Well, I do have to tell that part of the story, which is that the only other Zan that I've met is the other Zan, or Xandria.
Yeah.
And she's also married to a Larry. And she's also from Southern California, and we both have Miatas. So it's just one of those strange coincidences.
Oh my gosh.
But it gets better. It gets better because she contacts me one day and she says, "Hey, I have a URL that I think you might be interested in." I'm like, "Oh, okay. And which one is it?" It says, "Well, no one else in the world would want it but you." I'm like, "What is it?" She says, zanandlarry.com.
How does that even, like, did she have that when she had real estate? Is that why she had
Yeah.
that?
And
Oh my
gosh. I was like, yes, I want it. But it was just one of those, what are the chances? So,
oh my gosh. So she told me the story of how her name was Alexandria and her mom shortened it and stuff. So what about you? Is there any story related to your name?
yes. So it's actually from Susan. I got sick of Sue, but I like to tell people that they don't forget a 6-foot tall Zan. And if I'm playful and kind of puckish, I like to say it's one from the end, one from the beginning, and one from the middle. But it actually came about, I've been going by Zan since about 89.
Okay.
And so in high school, 3 of us after school, we took the last half of our names. And so, Kenneth became Neth, Jesse became Z, and I became Zan. And so then I went to art school, and then I went to to travel with Cass, and I took Zan, and I've been Zan ever since.
So your name was Suzanne, right?
No, it's Susan, 5 letters, but I took Zan out of it.
Okay.
Susan,
And were those friends of yours or siblings that did that with their names?
No, they're just high school friends at the time that we just did after school. We said, this is what we're gonna do.
I love it. I love it. That's just so cool. My friends predominantly, when I think about where I grew up, they've taken their name that was Jill and made it JYL, and they've shortened Debbie, DEBBIE into DEBI, things like that. So there have been changes. I don't know if any of them are legal changes, but anyway. All right. So Zan, I love the stories about the names. Tell me, did you see a show? Now I've met, the question used to be, where did you see a show and when? And now I realize 1 million people didn't see shows before they traveled. So tell me about your introduction to Up With People.
So I've known about Up With People all my life. And my parents hosted, they saw one of the first shows that came through Waynesboro, Virginia in 65. And recently, at reunion, my mom was there at the table, the reach out table with me, and John Parker was walking by, and I said, "Hey, John, just out of curiosity, were you ever in Waynesboro, Virginia for your show, and you drove up in like a flatbed and you put down the sides and did the show from there, and then after the show just drove off?" And he says, "Yeah, I think that was our show." And it was just like, whoa, okay, there you have the full circle of how the introductions kind of came around. So we grew up hosting. I grew up knowing the songs and singing them and everything. So it just became kind of natural that at age 16, when they came to my high school, I was going to interview. I was young then, too young, but I still interviewed. Of course, they didn't accept me, but they said, well, here's what you need to do. You need to have more customer service. You need to go out and do more things. So being the Zan that I am, I went out and did everything. And so I did more blood drives and food things. And, just I completely packed it. So the next time they came through town, I interviewed, and I mean, I'd love to see the paperwork saying, okay, lots of customer service, lots
of things.
Yeah, because I just did it. So,
and what year was that? When was that?
I traveled in 91E.
91E. Okay.
It was the
Okay.
first year of Rhythm of the World. I actually did the Rhythm of the World city in Woonsocket. I set that up for 10 days. So I worked with John Gonzalez before I knew him, and
Oh,
Glenn and the whole team. And so it's that's that show, Rhythm of the World, the first show.
after you traveled for a year, did you come back as staff or did you work for Up With People afterwards?
No, I wanted to go right back into art school and get going into designing and doing things out in the world and making a difference.
Okay, so what is your degree in? Where'd you go to art school? What have you done with that? That's fascinating to me because I love art. So
I started off at Columbia College in Chicago, and I got accepted into the School of the Art Institute of Chicago on the spot. But they said, well, I like the program, but I wanted to be doing things in advertising and out in a more global way. And so those were more fine arts tuned for School of the Art Institute. So Columbia was the way that you would get into ad agencies in Chicago. So I was there. And then my fellow alum, well, kind of my sister castmate, Kira McElroy, he said, hey, you need to come out and come to Art Center. And so I came out to Pasadena and showed my portfolio, and I got accepted on the spot there, which was kind of unusual, but I was like, okay. And so I went to Pasadena for 2 terms for the Art Center, and then just started to go out and get jobs. So I mean to bring it back to advertising, I've been working. I have lots of clients and things, but I one of my longest term client is a medical advertising agency that I've had for 22 years now.
wow, wow.
Yeah, I've done so much for them because I've been almost everywhere in the org chart. I'm sort of a Zan of all trades. I help build teams. I help create entire departments. And then of course, whatever they need for art, branding, strategy.
So the creative part of you clearly is emanating in many ways. Do what was the genre of when you showed a portfolio back when you started? What were you using? Were you painting? Were you drawing? Were you sketching? What were you doing then? Watercolors?
That was at the beginning of desktop publishing. So
Okay.
I was showing layouts of brochures and letterhead and logos and different things that would exemplify that I could do these design requirements for that.
And what was
Mostly.
the software? What were the programs that you were using back then? Can
So
you even think?
Oh, of course, because I was training corporate people on how to do them.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was so new that it was kind of the equivalent of the young people teaching you how to set your watch or your VCRs, So because I was doing the desktop publishing just naturally, corporations, Motorola, other people were coming to me saying, can you teach us how to do that? So I actually went from babysitting at $20 an hour to right into working babysitting for $20 a night into freelancing for $20 an hour. So from age 14, I started freelancing, and I've freelanced ever since. So it's just, so I was desktop publishing and teaching corporate people right out of, in high school, first early college, and then a little bit when I came back after tour, just different desktop publishing. So those programs were Aldus PageMaker before it was bought by Adobe, and then Quark, which has a smaller market share now, but at the time it was the one that was the big one. And now I do a little bit of InDesign with people that need to know what that's like and stuff. So those Photoshop and things.
When I moved from Ohio to Tucson, so we moved in 2000, the whole year that when the whole world thought that, every computer was going to crash and we were going to lose everything. I had a company back in Ohio, and I had an artist create a static web page at that point. And when I think of how much work it was for her then to create the design, I'll have to share it with you sometime of what we were doing, because I still have all my rights, legal rights and everything to this. And now how like so many people can go create. And it reminds me a little bit of the fact that we all have phones that are cameras, that are computers.
We didn't have that when we were traveling though.
No, and that there are still photographers who are better and who specialize and who, and as a realtor, I think about that because there are people that love to take pictures of houses like the ones behind me. There are people that love to do portraits. There are people that, so there's still this whole creative opportunity in so many different ways. And my brother and I are just getting ready to do a website for our podcast. We chose the name. That's how far along I am.
Well, yes, I do websites also because that's part of the gamut in social media, but it's, it is an undertaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Rhythm of the World. And then you've been involved and, tell me, I want to get to the songs and some of the regular questions before we talk a little bit about what you're doing and about next week in Chicago. So tell me what songs affected your life and that maybe you love either from your show or from any other show.
I'm going to say 2 songs from my show. Everyone really enjoyed Roads and Moonrider, and I do like them as lyrical pieces, but Coming Home from Rhythm of the World is just always been a very powerful song for those that sang it and those that performed it. And it's it had a lot of meaning in 1991 because we had just the 2 casts. We had a sister cast of Cast F, one of the only Cast Fs, and ourself E. And the day that we learned about our split, who was going to be an E, who was going to be an F. The next thing they said after "Here's where you're going" and you're now this cast was that the Gulf War had broken out, and so many of our it was just in that span of being absolutely euphoric, like here's where we're going, to just bottom of the bottom of, now what does this mean? Do I have to go back? Was that the tour? We didn't even get to start or what? So luckily that was a very short-lived span of time, but it's a lot happened on our tour. So when we sing Coming Home on that last day, when, I'd still picture it with everyone with candles on stage and everything else, it still means a lot to me for that song.
Not just for you to perform it, but because I've helped with reunions, I know a lot of songs from through the years, and it's emotional for all of us. And my brother is a Desert Storm vet. I will have to make sure that he hears that. I've never put those things together in my brain.
The other one is Room for Everyone, which we borrowed. When we do special things, as you know, on when you do spin-offs or do corporate or whatever, they bring in songs that also work for those programs. And so Room for Everyone was one that we performed for the King and Queen of Sweden, and with the full flag parade and everything else with everything. So that's one. And I think that those messages are important even today is the lyrics. And if I had to choose one more, it'd probably be one-to-one for my reach out stuff, because that's what we always try to promote. So
it is, one of the fun things about doing this is to hear, frankly, the continuity through the years. I'm singing Granddad's Wooden Chain on Sunday at church because it's Grandparents' Sunday, and it's not a church song, but it's a good song. It's a relevant song, and the ones that you mentioned continue to be relevant in many ways, and that's one of the things that I think are so special about Up With People songs and lyrics and what they wrote, and talking to Paul and Steve saying, I can't believe this is still a thing 50 years later or whatever, that we're having some of these same discussions. So all righty. Well, clearly I know you were in Sweden. I was bicentennial, so we were predominantly the United States and a whole lot of time in Texas. So when you traveled, where you traveled, I've kind of asked people, was there a food that you tasted that you loved, that you abhorred, that now you eat regularly because you tried it on the road and Up With People?
It's going to sound silly, but I had a lot of allocations where I was either alone or only had another person. So, but they either didn't, like another castmate that was a non-US. So, but when we were out of country, when we were in at least Germany and Switzerland, the host parents would ask me what I wanted to eat or something, and I always said chocolate. They would one of
In those countries with chocolate, yeah.
one of my favorites was the whole family. They roused me. I was sleeping, and they roused me, and the little ones are pulling my hand, trying to get me to the other room, trying to say things in their language that they don't know mine, to say, "Come to the chocolate party, come to the chocolate party," and so they had bought everything. And I mean, it's like it's like if you're in a hospital room and it's just covered with flowers that someone just says get well soon. It was like all the chocolate was all
the
around
chocolates.
and so it was,
That's fun.
that was I think a single allocation, but so just for the Nutella, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
You can accessibly find the some of the ones you find in IKEA for the DAIM, dime, dame, the little chocolates and things. So I still try to find interesting international types of ones. Someone just sent me a castmate's an Ovaltine chocolate bar from Switzerland. So cool. This is yummy.
Kind of health foodie. And I just came home from Europe, and my girlfriend in Belgium, when it doesn't matter where we go, I come home with like an eau de cologne and chocolate. And and I'm like, okay. And honestly, I won't put those in my suitcase that's being stored underneath for fear they lose it, because I want to make sure the chocolate gets home with me, which is, I don't know, I'll lose those clothes, but by God, don't lose my chocolate. That's awesome. And is there a country or a place or a continent that you haven't been that you'd really like to go, Zan?
Yes, very much so. My husband Larry and I are very much into natural spaces, like natural wonders, I'll say, geological features, and unusual wildlife, like exotic wildlife. So Antarctica and New Zealand top the list, and going back to Australia so we can go see our kawakas and echidnas and paddymellons and dugongs and all these different fun critters that we know so much about, and it would be good to go. So no Italy.
No,
sometime, but this is where we'd want to go.
Yeah, it's funny how many I'm like, no, don't say Moonrider, don't say Italy.
I know, I've watched your videos.
Watched a couple of those.
I'm not gonna say these.
Come up with another place you want to go. It's
there you go.
Yeah. All right. So tell me about the Reach Out program that I think you started or you're heading. I don't know all the details of this. So share with this before you go to Chicago for that rendezvous there.
Yes. So Reach Out started in 2005 when a group of alumni were meeting at the 40 Years and Counting reunion. And they got together and they were talking about their castmates and staff, and realized that some of them had fallen on hard times. And so that group came back to Southern California. They happened to be Southern California alum, and they started the nonprofit that is Reach Out today, called Reach Out Alumni Assistance Network. They needed board members and contributors and everyone else. And so I was approached probably 6 months into that kind of path and said, would you like to be a board member? So I came on as just a regular board member, but through time, since 2006, I worked myself up through different, secretary and treasurer and vice president. And I think I've been the president now for 10 years.
Wow. I've seen you at a lot of reunions.
Yes. It's been great. I mean, in the sense that having such a long time, you can have more focus on the programs and what needs to happen, and find more interesting ways to support the alumni. I've let it be very organic, that they sort of tell me what they need, and then we'll move in that direction. So one of the directions we moved in pretty early, I think it was 2012, 2014-ish, was that we created a support committee within our, different committees of those that could provide third-party services, so that, we could put them in touch with other services that would be on top of what we might be able to give them, either financially, because we can't do everything. We can't, keep contributing. It's a one-time gift that we can do that's for emergency situations. And we wanted to be able to amplify that to help them become more sustainable and help putting those building blocks in place to make them have a more stable life. And so this was what we started. And so the applicants have come back to us and said that has just been invaluable. You know, it's they didn't know about the programs, and somehow we were. I brag on my board all the time. They are so good at solving a problem. They can work it so well. If I come and say, okay, we've got one that's got these kind of details. What do we do? And they're like, okay, we could do this, we could do that. Okay, let me get, you know, they're just, they'll get it, and we'll make something that's, it's like having 10 people work on your situation, you know, or 14 people work on your situation to make it be something that you may not have seen prior to that works. So it's good. So that's what all started, and how I got involved, and sort of where we are at the moment.
Okay.
One more point. The other thing that I think, goodness, when did I start that one? Maybe a couple of years ago. So maybe 2017, 2018, I started the Care Network, which is that one-to-one song that I was mentioning. That is where interested alumni can sign up with us, so to say. I akin it to like the National Bone Marrow Donation. That if we need you, we'll call you. But if not, then, you know, you're just sort of in this thing. So if I needed someone that was in the Tucson area that had your skill set, I'd say, hey, Donna, can you help? You know, can you take someone for a medical appointment? Can you just have a meal with them? They've been so isolated with COVID. Can you just have a conversation like this, you know, to just kind of bring them back into to everything. So there's simple things that can be done with the Care Network. There's greater things that can be done. We had a match one time that was a Spanish speaker that had a psychology background that we needed, and I'm like, oh, there it is, exactly who we need, you know. So it was it's based on the languages, you know, the skills, you know, but it could also be matched out through if you have a parent with Alzheimer's, just having someone. There's some check marks that are already in the box with our alumni. If another alumni contacts them and says, hey, I'm from 91E and I know what you're going through, I can tell you more about where you are right now in the storyline and the story arc and where you're going, and that's also invaluable to them. We've had feedback that you know, it's one of those Care Networks was someone needed their house painted, and so we just kind of blew a whistle and, you know, put a call out there saying, alumni in need, if you can just do this, they have cancer, they can't paint this room of their house that they need, can you come over? And it's just really neat to make those connections.
I hope you watch and listen to this, because I've learned more just listening here. And I know that you don't know me super well, but at Keller Williams, we have
change that.
we have a program called Agents Helping Agents, and I headed up that committee for a while, but I have also used the committee. And when my husband died by suicide and I had a bankruptcy and a divorce, and it was like a country Western song, my church's discretionary fund paid my rent. My office helped pay for the hotel when my son Caleb had cancer. He's also an alumni when I had to go up there. So it's the same concept. And I contribute to Agents Helping Agents out of every one of my checks. And it's not a huge amount, but I've been doing it for 12 years now. And then I donated to the arts program that donated to Caleb. So I love that people are helping their own community. And I think that we develop skill sets that we didn't set out to develop. like, you know, I can talk to someone else who's gone through a bankruptcy because my credit score went from there to there, right? You know, and that can be super helpful. And I recovered. So there's two sides to all of that. So it gets me weepy. Oof. I laugh and I cry in a lot of these because it's important and we don't know. And I think the last couple of years have been harder on many. So I just got the 10-minute warning. Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
congrats.
So I know. So I want to ask you, because specifically of your background, I have tried to ask everybody about what they would tell a young person when Up With People comes back. We don't know what it's going to look like. And I know that you've been part and parcel to this. And, you know, I've sat in on meetings down here about the potential for various kinds of arts and not just music and all that. if you were going to talk to an 18 or a 20-year-old right now about their gap year, and like everybody takes a gap year, I say that as if everybody takes a gap year.
Except the fellows that take a gap decade, right?
Yeah.
Or
What
a
would
gap
you,
life.
what would you, yeah, gap life. What would you say to someone about Up With People and the opportunities?
Like you said, it's couched in a lot of what ifs and some crystal ball, but I think the important thing for youth today is to know that there are others out there and that there's other circumstances out there. And that's one of the things that is, it helps you be the well-rounded person to know about, whether it's a different country, just knowing about more countries and more places on the map and what's happening in their world. Back to the song, "What's happening to you is happening to me." You have things that are related. It's not like they're over there, I don't care about them. It really does come back to us in many ways. So just having that, it goes past being open-minded, because you're being open worldly, or something that's being or worldly empathetic, maybe, just something that has a larger degree of
Integration
empathy.
as compared to here, it's like, oh, you're here,
Yeah,
you're with people. Yeah.
it's too easy to become US focused and US centric, and it's more important to really broaden those whatever that marker is, to say, oh. And the way I did it real quickly, because I can see the timer too, was that I had pen pals way back when way before internet and back in the postal mail, that I found them in the back of a magazine. They said, get a pen pal, and I said, great. And so I got the first one, and I forget where it was from, but I contacted them saying, I know you're also from this program, can I have your pen pal? I'll give you mine. And so I ended up with tons of these worldwide pen pals before I even joined the program. This was, oh gosh, I must have been about 14, 15. So I had already been getting stamps from them and little bits of money. Like, I didn't want money, I just wanted to know what they look like.
Like, what did it look like?
Point.
Yeah.
And then I had a binder that I kept of everything that was happening in their world. So I knew, like, okay, this is what it is, and this is how big their country is, and stuff. So just having that awareness early, I think, helps you be a better world citizen. And if we can make more world citizens, I think we'll have a better world because of it.
My tagline for real estate has been realtor concierge for a while. And I have friends who laugh about how many people don't know how to say concierge, but I've actually thought about local realtor, global citizen, because I feel like that's more reflective of, I predominantly sell homes in Tucson, but I feel like I'm a person of the world, and not just, okay, I live here. This is where my home is that I come home to. But certainly, Up With People opened the world up to me. So yeah. Okay, I have to tell you, because you just said pen pal, this is totally not related, but it's still going to be on here. Next Tuesday, my pen pal that I started writing to in 1972 is coming. Did I tell you that?
You mentioned it as we were setting this up, but tell me about it.
So she's from South India, and we wrote all through high school, to the point where we thought our parents would let us meet after high school. Like, oh yeah, we're going to fly you to India, Donna, for whatever. And I found her because of a conversation with a missionary from India about whether women would change names depending upon their religious upbringing or lack thereof, And I found her on Facebook in 2018, and we have now been talking and Skyping. And she's in California right now. She's kind of in the Bay Area at a sister-in-law, and she comes next week, and we're going to meet each other for the first time. And the local news station is going to come and talk to us. So I'm super excited. We're about 6 months difference in age, and have really similar life stories in different cultures. So how I've been able to live my life compared to someone in India, I'm super excited. Anyway, I guess that that's interesting. That's a piece of you that, went about it. And I'm sure that was from the back of the magazine, just like you were saying, like, I don't know where her name came from. It was 8th or 9th grade. So, all righty, we're going to wrap it up. I want to have a couple minutes to talk to you after we finish it. Thank you so much for your time, for all that you've done for Rowan. And I'm not going to be in Chicago, but I know a lot are going to be. And I really, really will push this and ask people to get in touch and we'll make sure we get those details so that
get some links so that they can join the Care Network too, if they want to.
Yes, I agree. All right. What day of the week is it? It's Saturday. Happy Saturday. And appreciate your time, Zan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna.
Bye.